Okay, so I've been looking at different preamps, and on the electric piano forum, there's a schematic for a Rhodie preamp, and it looked relatively simple, and I thought, let's have a go at building our own. See how it works and see if we can learn from it. There's a few comments where people have broke down the circuit there already. But yeah, so I've got some Vero board, and I've cut what I think will be enough to hold the circuit onto. And then next we need to make some little cuts in the traces. I tend to use the drill bit. It's easy enough to spin this round and break the trace. It's always good to use like a multimeter to confirm that the trace is fully broke, because sometimes it may look like it is, but it isn't always. And yeah, so some people have already analysed the circuit, they've worked out what the EQ does. And I thought we could blend some of those ideas together and include a little switch that changes the capacitor value and just adds a little bit more versatility to the circuit. I'm sure there's lots of people who know how to solder it, and they're going to tell me I'm doing it wrong, but just have a go. And if you're scared of having a go at a project yourself, just go start slow, check everything you do, use your multimeter, you will get there. And yeah, you'll be moving on to bigger and better things. It does take a little bit of like cost expenditure to kind of get set up with this, and if you're already into music and making stuff, you might already have enough hobbies to go with. So next we just add in some resistors. I'm going to start with a smaller, cheaper components, just in case there's a mistake or I want to start again, or it just makes it a bit more cost effective. And then, yeah, we just need to solder each one of these tabs on. It's relatively easy. And then we move on to capacitors. Once more, we poke them through, we check with the schematic, make sure we're happy with it, and then start soldering away. Once we solder enough away, we can trim the wires, and it's always good once more to just have a little multimeter around. Make sure you're convinced that anything soldered is right, you haven't crossed any tracks, and if that all works out quite well, then it's in the hands of whoever made the circuit and posted it. So this uses this little op amp. It's quite an old one. It's not the best, so it might be interesting to try this with a more modern equivalent. I might order some and actually give that a go. But yeah, I've used a socket just not to damage it in any way, and also it allows me to quickly try a modern equivalent. Next we're just going to cut some leads. We'll trim the ends, I'll tin the ends, and then it should solder in quite nice. It is quite an interesting little circuit, this one. Like, I'm consider myself a beginner in electronics, and I feel like I kind of know what most of it does. So I think it's a nice beginner one, or intermediate, depending on who you are. It was actually quite fun trying to film this, because this is quite small, but it was, you know, you definitely get appreciation for other YouTubers who film on even smaller, like surface mount components. It's impressive. So I've already added on the potentiometers and a battery clip. The way I've wired the battery clip is that it goes through the jack, so only once there is an instrument lead plugged in will the battery be connected fully to the circuit. So this should help retain battery life as long as I remember to unplug it. And then this is the switch. This isn't part of the original Rhodie circuit. This is something I've added, and it's just to add a bit more versatility, and also it just helps me understand. Like, it's easy to look at graphs and you can kind of model different schematics, but it's even more useful to actually understand what it sounds like. And you know, I can, if I want, I can go back into the circuit, change those values, and it just gives it an extra role. It's really good. So once more, I always like to 3D print stuff. I thought I'd come up with a little case. It's probably easier just to kind of get a metal box, but if anyone's interested, I'll post the case online. So if you want to create this and print your own, I'm sure you're free to do that. I've included all the holes in a little compartment for the battery. After a few hours, the printer starts spitting parts out, and we're good to go. So let's add a little bit of support material. We're just going to remove that with these pliers. We're going to break those little tabs, and we're also going to break the tabs off the potentiometers. I also had to saw the ends of those potentiometers because these were quite long shaft ones. And the circuit does just kind of squeeze in. It's good to have a little test of the circuit before you get to this point, but for the ease of making a video, I'm just going to build it all up and test it at the end. I've got a video at the end where we compare it to what the piano sounds like without the preamp. The addition of those controls, I think, does add a bit more to the piano, and as a budget preamp, it's okay. What I've created isn't necessarily representative of the Rhodie. I've used quite budget components and maybe not to the same tolerance as what the original design, so it's hard to compare. I would definitely like to get my hands on an original Rhodie, so if anyone does have one, feel free to get in touch. One small issue that I kind of have with this is that with using a plastic case, it doesn't shield as well as it could. So when your hand comes near it, you do get a little bit of interference, but it's quite subtle. And once more, I'm not making this to sell, to do anything with it. I just wanted to have a little play around, a little fun project, something different. As you've probably noticed, I am a bit of a project collector, and I like to take breaks from them, so it's good to just have a little break from that DIY piano that I'm working on. It is getting there, don't worry, I'm still on it. And then yeah, we're just going to attach some knobs. It's starting to look quite tidy now. So I guess we should insert a battery. Now the tolerance is quite tight on this, so the battery kind of just pushes in and it naturally grips it with the flex of the plastic. I don't know if you could use something like this for a commercial design, but it's something just to mock up at home and play with. It seems to do the job fine. I probably should include a proper 9-volt power supply, but it's fine. That's fine for now. So I've created a bass, we'll screw the bass on, and then yeah, here we go. Now nobody's going to know what these knobs do, so let's print a little label. And one thing that I have noticed on this version is I have made a mistake on the direction of the treble and bass controls, so they're actually upside down. Okay, so let's see what this sounds like. So that's the volume. And then without the pre-amp, So that is the Rhodie Preamp, and I haven't quite give it the full demo of the range of what's capable, but it definitely does add some extra features that a stage piano doesn't have. Now, would you put this on in a stage piano if I owned one? I'm not sure. I'd definitely be tempted to see what other preamps are out there, and that kind of leads me on to what I should do. Should I try a few more preamps and try and compare them? Let us know what you would do, and yeah, till next time.